What's up, everybody? So I'm Andy Stickle. I'm here with Charlie Mann, and we are red bearded brothers of
That's
law
right.
firm marketing. So it's funny. I think we're probably about the same age. We have about the same beard. We're both
Yeah.
starting to acquire the same tattoos. We're basically the same person.
That's
So
right.
yeah. So what we're going to talk about today is the $1 million law firm referral roadmap, and basically how both of us have a lot of different strategies about how you can use referrals to build your business, build your law firm, get more clients, help more people, all that good stuff. Now, at the end of this, if you want the cheat sheets, what we're going to do is we're going to transcribe this whole thing, throw it into Chat GPT, work that magic, and actually create a cheat sheet that we're going to give out. So if you're watching the replay, comment below cheat sheet, and someone on our team will actually reach out and get you the cheat sheet. If you're here, we will send you the cheat sheet. If you're here on the Zoom call, we'll send you the cheat sheet. So, Charlie, why don't you first start off by introducing yourself a little bit better than I introduced you, and talk about kind of where the law firm referral roadmap came from.
Yeah. So a lot of folks on here will know me from the past days in great legal marketing, but I now have my own company, Law Firm Alchemy, where I'm coaching the entrepreneurial law firm owners and helping them focus on building that entrepreneurial skill set, so that way they become master leaders and marketers of their practices. Through coaching and some new coaching programs coming up. But the reason that I love talking referrals is, Andy, the stuff that you guys do on the digital side is absolutely exceptional. And it has grown in so many different facets over the past 5 years that it is increasingly difficult to keep up with, which is why they need great partners to do all of that. So the question became, great, what can we put in that is in the control of the owner and associates in the practice? And referral marketing, a good ground game is part of that. So over several years, watching what was working for people for referrals, both inside of law firms and outside of law firms, start piecing together what is the minimum viable product that if you just follow a simple process, you will get more referrals, and then honing it down, minimum until coming up with the roadmap.
Yeah. And it's cool because law firm referrals, I always say so, and actually it's funny because you worked with Ben Glass for a while. Ben is a really big Dan Kennedy guy. I'm a huge Dan Kennedy guy also. And Dan always says the number one is the most dangerous number in your business. And what he's referring to is if you have one source of leads. So if let's say you don't do any referrals and you just rely on Google ads, that's super dangerous, because if you get shut down, you're done, right? Just same thing. If referrals is your only thing, then that's dangerous also. So it's kind of you want to have a robust strategy, like lots of different ways that you can get referrals. And it's funny. And what I want to do here is I want to kind of hear some of your strategies that you use, and then I want to talk about some of mine also. But I think the one thing that we have in common with these referrals is something that it's one of my favorite quotes from Zig Ziglar. And the quote is, you can have everything in life that you want if you just help other people get what they want. And that's typically the way that I approach referrals, is I think about how can I provide value to other people so that they'll reciprocate and want to give me value back in the form of clients and things like that. That's kind of my philosophy. What's your philosophy in terms of kind of your thesis in terms of how to get referrals?
I mean, look, you're spot on. We're very aligned in that it's about creating value. What I like to focus on with the idea of creating value is sometimes people get really obsessed with the concept value, and they start over churning what it has to be, as opposed to approaching it from the simplest perspective. From a very simple perspective, for example, if one of the parts of getting referrals is doing 2 meetups per week, right? That's part of my 3-part framework. Do 2 meetups per week, simple coffees with attorneys, both competing and non-competing and other related professionals in your area. The value that you can provide just to another attorney, quite frankly, is asking them questions about themselves. I think people are surprised that something as simple as turning the conversation around and asking questions of another individual is a way to create value, especially if you're talking with another law firm owner who is usually pretty adjusted to being the one driving the conversation as opposed to being a participant in the conversation. That's you can make people feel really good about themselves. And a law firm owner, I mean, Andy, you and I know this very well. It is always lonely at the top. All the law firm owners that we work with, they have that experience. Don't forget, that means the law firm owner across the table has that experience. How can you make them feel less lonely? That's a moment of creating value.
Yeah, yeah, it was funny too. And like, I'm not sure if you ever listened to any of Chris Voss's stuff.
Oh yeah.
In terms of, it's very much think and grow, or sorry, not think, how to win friends and influence people.
Yep.
And if you take those concepts where basically, like you said, ask them about themselves, get that status, and making them feel good is in itself a way of value. So let's talk about the roadmap. You said that that's
Yeah.
part, I think you said that was part 2 of the roadmap. Why don't you walk us through the roadmap, and then I'll ask you some questions as we go along.
Yeah, so we'll go with minimum viable stimulus here in order to get a, when we were kind of texting back and forth about this, I said, look, I have a $500,000 referral roadmap. I bet you've got one too. And we were like, great, $1 million referral roadmap right there. So here's my half of this is 3 parts to it. The first one is those 2 meetups that you do every single week. Don't over litigate. Like, as you're writing these things down, don't write down like, oh, does it have to be an hour or should it only be 15 minutes? Just start from 2 meetups per week. That's part 1. The second part is a weekly email out to your entire list. I think email marketing is entirely underutilized in the law firm space and can be a massive difference maker in firms that do it well and do it with a higher frequency than the monthly email. And then the final part is a monthly print mailer out to current and potential referral sources. Those are the 3 pieces to the 500K referral roadmap. And if you just focus on executing those, getting them out on rhythm, you will produce another $500,000 in referrals.
Awesome. Yeah, it's so simple. So, okay, so the first piece is you want to have two meetings or two engagements a week with someone who could be a potential referral partner. The second is you're going to do the email marketing. And then the third, remind me the third again.
The third is the monthly print mailed piece.
Monthly print mailer. Right. All right, cool. So let's unpack this, right? So the first one is going to be, kind of the concept, never eat alone, right? Take somebody out to lunch, have coffee with somebody, something like that. So I have some ways that I like kind of identifying partners, but what are some of the ways that you would go about even just getting started? Like, how do you figure out like who's a good referral partner? And then I'll share some things that I typically think about.
Yeah, the first 2 categories that we're going to look at are competing and non-competing attorneys, especially other law firm owners. Look, we know that people call lawyers when they need a lawyer, but they don't always call the right lawyer. So we know that there are opportunities to get referrals. Like, look, I mean, we only have so much time. I can just say this is evidence-backed, both anecdotally and statistically, that these referral opportunities are available. And the way to start from it is, do you have someone who has referred a case to you before but hasn't referred another case? Great. We need to go get lunch with them. They probably have more cases that they can send. Have I met someone recently in the courthouse who, rather than us forgetting each other's names because we only see each other in the courthouse every 10 to 15 months, why don't I take them out to coffee, lock in that relationship? Any past mentors that you've had who maybe shifted practices, those are great people to go out and talk with. And then also, don't forget about, obviously, your peers. People are in your similar age range, similar practice setup. And by the way, Google is your best friend. When you've gotten rid of all those options, go on to Google and just clickety clack, do that old search, and you're going to find an endless list of people that you can go and meet up with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always like going, I like doing like trying to figure out like who are the colleagues, who are the similar practice areas. Another thing that I like doing is I ask myself a couple questions. I ask myself, what are the problems that my ideal clients have before, during, and after the case, right?
Yes.
And well, before, during, and after using my service. So in your case, it would be for a lawyer, it'd be what are the problems they have before, during, and after the case? And then who solves those problems, right? Because then what you can do is you can actually find strategic partners where you can refer back and forth. So the classic example is chiropractors and personal injury attorneys, right? It's like peanut butter and jelly, right? They go together. But there's so many other categories of businesses that someone needs if they get into a car accident that are not even, even down to like things like if they're severely injured, they're going to need a contractor who can help build a ramp, a wheelchair ramp. Like there's so many different problems that people have, right? Now, the second thing I think about is, and so I think like what are those problems and who solves those problems? And then I make a list of the categories, and then I'll go Google those categories. So I'll go find all the massage therapists, and I'll find all the real estate agents, because people need to buy. They used to have a 2-story house. Now they need a 1-story house because their back hurts and they can't go upstairs, or whatever the scenario is. Right. The other thing is, think about what problems are created as a result of hiring you. Right. Because every solution creates a new problem. So like a perfect example is, let's say you don't have any money, right? So you don't have any money. So you go out and you get a job. Okay, great. I have a job, but oh crap, now I don't have a car. I can't get there. So now I buy a car. So now the problem is, now I need insurance. I need gas. I need a driver's license. Like, you didn't need all those things before. So every solution to a problem creates new problems. And when you start looking at it that way, like, think about like, what are all like the really, like, even the non-obvious, because everybody's thinking chiropractors, everybody's thinking physical therapists, right? But when you start thinking of all the different places, like what's really funny is that I go to a personal trainer, and there's a sign on the wall in my personal trainer, and it says it's for a marriage counseling, right? And the reason why is because, and I've seen this happen many times, before people typically will go through a divorce, they'll go through that, or that breakup, they'll go for that 2 or 3 month period where they start eating well and they start getting in shape and they start getting ready to get back on the market. You know what I mean? So like, so it's like, think about like in real world, what do people actually do? What are the problems they have? What are the solutions? Who actually provides those solutions? You know, and then you can reach out to those people and come up with less competitive offers and less competitive things like that, you know? So
exactly.
So what do you recommend in terms of like, kind of like how do you approach, like, what do you do? Do you just have a conversation, just try to get to know them? Like, do you go straight for the kill? Like, what do you do during this conversation?
So during the conversation itself, it is, it's 80-20 in that it's 80% about them and then it's 20% about business. It's 80% asking them about what's going on, ask them about their business, and most important of all, ask follow-up questions. You want to show someone that you're serious about listening to them talk. Don't keep skipping to a different topic over and over again because you're getting through your 5 pre-written questions. Ask your first question, hey, what's the biggest driver of business for you in this area? And as soon as they tell you a little bit, maybe they're wondering like, I don't know if I feel comfortable sharing all this information. They tell you, oh, well, we used to do a bunch of flyers, but recently it's been this thing called Google local service ads, right? Oh, well, you probably have some connective tissue there. And you go, that's interesting. I'm trying to be better at local service ads. What's working for you there? Now we can show, hey, we're getting deeper in this conversation and I actually care about you. I'm interested in you. And just keep turning it back to them over and over and over again until that last 20% where, now there is like this, hey, let's talk shop a little bit. Let's talk about how we can make each other's worlds a little bit more expansive by solving problems. Like the problem you may want solved as the law firm owner is you want more cases sent your way, but what's the problem that you can solve for this individual? Exactly what you were saying earlier, Andy, which is find that problem, create value. So if it's you're a family law attorney or you're meeting with marriage therapists, right? One of the problems that you can solve is like, one of the things that drives me crazy is it feels like the care plan between the therapist and the lawyer, like there's a fight for who's supposed to be right. We like to think of this as a co-care plan for any of our clients. And now we can start developing what that process looks like and create value.
Yeah. And what's really cool is that once you do that, you can actually form strategic partnerships where you mutually refer each other business. So like one idea that I always talk about is if you're a family law attorney, everyone that's going through a divorce that has kids typically has the thought in the back of their head, well, I don't want to screw up my kids, right? I want to make sure that my kids get through this. So what if you worked with a therapist and as part of the divorce, when they hire you, you also get 2 free sessions with this therapist and you get free sessions with the child therapist or whatever. And what you're really doing is giving a free trial with the therapist, and the therapist from there can then continue to charge them after the 2 sessions, but you're sending business to the therapist. And in exchange, the therapist is going to give you a kickback, but in exchange, whenever the therapist has a patient that needs a lawyer, you're the one they refer to. And then you're kicking stuff back and forth. And not only that, now it's also a more attractive offer when somebody comes to your law firm and says, well, not only do you get a lawyer, but you also get, therapy sessions and everything, because we're trying to sell you, we're trying to put together the entire package. We're trying to not just give you a divorce, we're trying to help you start a new life, and mental health is a big part of that,
It is creating that co-care plan. It is thinking about, every one of us who is in any kind of professional service, we have a little black book of recommended providers, recommended services. And if someone's coming and seeking your professional advice and counsel, even having access to that little black book is high value resource, especially if you've done the work already, to move upscale, higher prices, better clients, etc. Those people always value curation of resources.
Yeah, that's awesome. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is I think it's a quantity game also, where I talked to John Fisher, and John Fisher does this concept called streaking, which I love. I actually use streaking for a lot of different things in life. And what he does, he's talking about, he has like hundreds of referral partners. And the way he does it is every day he makes sure to just send one introduction to a new person every single day. And like most of them don't respond. Most of them don't ever refer business. But if you get into a habit, like let's say you do this every day for 365 days, and only 10% of them work out. Well, now you got 36 people that are sending you business. I mean, that's massive if you continue doing it. So it's not like this is just going to be a one-time thing. It's like get in the habit of doing this and understand that most of the time it's not going to work out, but there's going to be some gold, and you've just got to go through the motions to go to find that gold, and you're going to find those real relationships. Now, I want to move on to the email marketing side of this. Because I think there's a lot of questions about the email marketing. So talk through the email marketing strategy. Like, what are we emailing? Who are we emailing to? What are we saying to them? Give me a little bit of information there.
Yeah, so we want to get that email out every single week. And the reason I, again, reinforce that is, Andy, you put it perfectly, the idea of habits, right? And John Fisher being a great leading example on that, a daily habit. And I remember looping back to the Dan Kennedy of it all. One of Dan's things said that, like, in business, set sail one ship a day was the phrase that he would often use, right? Yeah. Which is just create one new opportunity for yourself or for your clients every single day, and you'll get more business back. In this case, sending the weekly email, we want to get that out there. And first off, strip away the need for it to have 5 different sections in it. It's okay if it does, but it doesn't have to. And strip away the need for it to be perfectly designed. As a matter of fact, one of the worst types of design is the halfway designed email. You either want to do it great or strip it down to its bare bones. Keep it plain text, white background, and personality laden. There are sort of a few categories that I recommend. One is to go really personality driven, stories from your own life, points of interest, things that you want to share, or go with heavy curation. There's that word curation again. What kind of resources do you want to share? Things that are happening in the community, books that might be interesting. Shoot, you can share reviews of movies that you've seen, and that will be of interest. It will be memorable. It will give people a reason to open your emails consistently. Just whatever you do, don't send just a monthly email. Frequency creates the proximity effect, which creates better open rates, better unsubscribe rates, and ultimately leads to actual replies and conversations that happen within it.
Yeah. So the idea is that basically you're trying to give them something. I think first and foremost, it would be, first of all, to remind them that you're there, right? I think that's a really big part of it. And then actually give them some sort of valuable information that they're gonna find interesting. And actually, there's some cool stuff you can do also, especially if you have like groups of people where you can share concepts. So like one of the things that I absolutely love, I heard this story from Dan Newland. I've told this story a couple of times recently, and he's a personal injury attorney. He's actually got the world's largest personal injury attorney out of a single office. And what he identified is he identified clusters of businesses. So one that he found was funeral home directors, because he wanted to get more wrongful death cases. Oftentimes, if there's a car accident where there's a wrongful death and there's more than one person, there's very likely someone else that might have been injured in the car. So what he started doing is he started creating all this content, and he was having seminars, but he was also sending newsletters to funeral directors. And the content was literally just teaching them how to get insurance to pay for funerals. So it's like, it's great because it reminds them he's there every time. It's providing a reason for them to actually open the newsletters. It's helping them put more money in their pocket. So it's helping, he's getting what he wants by helping them get what they want, which is having more people able to pay for funerals or pay for more expensive funerals. And ultimately, you take that model and like, you could even expand this out to a couple different times. And this is really where you need to have somebody that's in charge of this in your law firm. But I think it's a worthwhile investment. like if you have the funeral director's email list and you have the chiropractor's email list and you have the, whoever email list, right? And you break it down into different things and you think what's valuable to these different communities. Have you ever seen it done that way, Charlie?
So yeah, the segmentation, I love to introduce segmentation later on. Like the first thing that I want to get someone to do is let's focus on getting that email out the door, build that initial habit. Then over time, and it's valuable to early on if you whatever CRM system you're using to be able to tag people in their various categories. Because as we evolve this strategy, yes, let's go spot on with it. I think about like in the print mailing space, John Griffith out in Tennessee, one of the things that John does is he has a different print newsletter for like the general population, then a different one for chiropractors, physios, orthos that addresses their needs. And then he has one that's for other attorneys, his voir dire newsletter, which talks about trial law. And all of those are specifically segmented. And when you can get there, you can absolutely produce powerful results. But, for the first, let's say 500 people on your list, just get that email out the door. Figure out what you're like when you're talking in email format, which is often different than what you might do for social media, say, or what you might do different compared to publishing a print newsletter. You have to figure out your style there.
Yeah. The first step is just getting started, right? So like something is better than nothing. And then once you actually start seeing the results, that's when you can start actually segmenting this out. And it's funny because a lot of times, attorneys, I talk to attorneys that I just don't have time to do all this. And it's like, well, really, this is something that you really shouldn't be doing. This is something that a marketing director in your firm should be doing. Like you should be coming up with the overall strategy, but you should actually be having people that are running these things in your firm, especially when you look at like the cost of advertising, right? So again, I don't believe that you should cancel one form of advertising for another, but if we're willing to spend $20,000, $30,000, even $5,000 on running Google ads and things like that, then we should also be willing to invest in other areas of the business. And sometimes it's not necessarily the advertisement, it's actually the person who's going to run the strategy for you that you're going to dictate, So that leads into the third stop on the blueprint roadmap, which is the
monthly print mailer.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. How do you tell me what goes into that?
So this, this is where I know that everyone's thinking about now we have a hard fixed cost, right? I mean, technically it costs something to have an email service provider, but we really think about it in print now, every single piece, it scales in a different way. So this is where I emphasize the number one thing to get out the door in print is something to referral sources. So here's where we actually are starting to get more into some level of segmentation. Yes, should we have a newsletter that goes even broader than that? For sure. But if I can just get you to do the referral newsletter, we're going to get you big wins. That's my promise. So when you do the referral newsletter, it just needs to be a couple of pages. And remember, one of the greatest advantages that you can have if you're sending this newsletter to, say, a chiropractor's office or another medical provider's office or a financial advisor's office or a therapist's office is, what can you have on the outside of your envelope? You're the name of your law firm. You know what people open? Mail from law firms. So you can put your piece inside. It's a newsletter. It doesn't have a direct call to action. Double check what the rules are in terms of putting the word advertisement on the envelope, depending on your state, all those disclaimers included here. But what we want to put in this newsletter is, what do we think can create value and interest to the person receiving it? This is where we go again. The word curation is our top tier option. So like Scott Snelling's in Texas, he has his Read, Learn, Grow society. And when he sends that to people, it's going to curate like a book, right? A book that he's going to recommend to everyone who's a business owner, because he wants business owners predominantly on his list. Why? Because business owners can make decisions. We want decision makers on our list. So get decision makers on your list and write in a way that helps them. Share your own experiences, share your stories. And by the way, for all of this stuff, every law firm is a walking gossip column. And I say this in like the most fun, enjoyable, you have a tabloid at your dispense way, because everyone loves stories of the law when the stories are well told. They want to hear about the weird courtroom drama. They want to hear about the criminal defense attorney who who you heard say hi to his client, and the client goes, "That's not my name," and sees the criminal defense attorney look panicked at the file that they were provided, realizing they don't have the right. Like they want to hear all the juicy gossip, and you're sitting on such an amazing resource to share both with the general population and with referral sources.
That's such a good point. I've never even thought of that. There is on Instagram, there's a meme account that I follow. It's called like Overheard in Court or something like that. And it's just all these like ridiculous things, like real transcripts from real court, from real, hearings and trials and things like that. And some of them are hilarious,
Yeah.
So honestly, like, yeah, you could go in there and just find, like, it doesn't have to be your stories. Like, you could go in and find that stuff. Another thing that
Even
I think would
smarter.
be another thing I think would be really cool, that's actually a really interesting idea, is including testimonials in your newsletter and your mailings. Because what that does is that provides social proof. Because a lot of times people want to refer, but there's always that question of, yeah, I want to refer, but if I refer to you and you do a bad job, then
Hmm.
it's going to refer back on me, right? It's going to take my status down, right? So by including testimonials and talking about things like that, what it allows you to do is allows you to give that confidence that you're doing something, that you're doing really well.
That's
Um,
such an important layer, Andy. That
yeah,
social proof makes a world of difference because it is that ability to move a relationship from cold to some level, right? We have to achieve the know, like, and trust formula here. And they don't
yeah,
know you yet. You're going to work quickly on them liking you. How much can we move trust fast? And it's never going to be just what you say about yourself. It is what others say about you that matters
mhm,
the most.
yeah. Now, just so that we're clear, is this newsletter going to referral partners? Is it going to potential clients? Is it going to past clients, current? Like, who do you recommend that this is the recipients of this particular newsletter?
So it's going to be anyone who is a current referral partner or anyone who we want to be a referral partner. Like Andy, you talked
Yeah,
early on that idea of, hey, look at all the related possible industries. And that's such an important exercise that can allow you to 10x your possible referral base pretty significantly. Put
hmm,
all of those people on your referral newsletter, get that out the door. Because here's the other thing is that's not like, you don't have to go and try and find the email address, load it up in the like addresses. You're just allowed to start sending mail to them. Huge
yeah.
advantage.
Yeah, and another cool thing you could do is you could actually, because if you introduce this concept of what are all the problems that they have before, during, and after, well, what ends up happening is, another way you can provide value that people don't think about is connecting the dots, like introducing this person to this person, right? So another thing you can do, and this is actually kind of a twofold, is that you can let some of your referral partners actually have some columns or something in the newsletter, because then, first of all, that's content that you don't have to create. You can set the
Yay.
guideline that, hey, this has to provide value. It's not gonna, don't make a sales pitch, make it provide value, help a lot of people. And then what'll end up happening is they're getting value just because they're getting exposed to all these other businesses as well. So it's pretty interesting. Another thing that I love doing is I like thinking, how can I provide, what's something that I can do that can provide value to everybody? So like,
Hmm.
I kind of look at this as almost like, it's like PSA marketing, I call it, right? It's basically like, if you can make like things that are like public service announcements, right? So one example is like, if you're a personal injury attorney, I've talked a lot about personal injury today, but like, if you're a personal injury attorney, one thing you can talk about is uninsured motorist coverage, right?
Yep.
And you can talk about how, look, everybody needs to have uninsured motorist coverage. And you can talk about why. You can say you had somebody came in your office, they got rear-ended, they got all these back injuries, but unfortunately, the person who hit them didn't have insurance, and they don't have uninsured motorist coverage. So this thing
Yeah.
that would have cost them $20 a month is now going to cost them $20,000. So check your policy right now and just make sure that you have that. And if you have any questions about your policies, let me know. Another thing that's really cool, I know this personal injury attorney who's in again with personal injury, personal injury attorney in California, in Los Angeles. He used to do car accident, or sorry, he used to do traffic tickets. So what he would do is, on his tickets, or on his business cards, it would say, hold this card for one free traffic defense over a traffic ticket defense over the next 10 years, right? So it's like, think about, what skills do you have? Like, what other skills do you have that you can use, that you can leverage, right? Like, so obviously that guy doesn't want traffic ticket cases, right? But by leveraging that skill that he has, he knows how to handle the traffic ticket. And honestly, it's probably not even him doing it. It's probably an administrative assistant or a paralegal, whoever just does, follows the script. But he's able to parlay that into something that's going to guarantee that someone's going to keep that card on their desk. And I mean, that led to clients, so you could even do that type of thing in your newsletter, like figure out a way, how do I get them to actually want to keep this newsletter rather than just flip through it and throw it in the trash.
That inspires another idea here, Andy. I'm going to highlight someone who's actually here on Zoom right now, Brandon Osterbein. So he's been experimenting with TikTok recently, and you could make an offer to all of the people who you send this mailer out to and say, like, hey, I've been testing out TikTok recently. For those who are unfamiliar with the process of getting up one of those videos where you use text and everything, I actually put together a little Loom video to show you how to do it. If you want to take a look at that, go over to this URL and input your email address, and I'll send that over to you free. Now, also, we have an opt-in to the email list, and you can spread that even wider. That's taking exactly what you said, Andy, a resource that you have or a process you've done, and now making it available to others in order to drive them back into your list.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool. Well, that is the $1 million law firm referral roadmap. Charlie, thank you so much for hanging out today. This was awesome. I learned a few things here that I'm gonna implement for some of our campaigns also, which is cool. Where can people find you? Do you have any website they can go to, or
Yeah, absolutely. So if it's all right, I'll drop the URL into chat. If you want to get the referral playbook that goes in depth on all of this and offers some more strategic guidance, lawfirmalchemy.com/referrals or /referral playbook. But if you just go to lawfirmalchemy.com/referrals, that'll take you right to that referral playbook, and you can grab that over there. That's the best place to start if you're taking referrals seriously in your practice.
Awesome. Yeah. So check that out. And if you guys want to basically learn more strategies with how to put more revenue and more profits in your pocket and more free time on your calendar, which I think we all want, we actually have a really cool event coming up, and the team can drop the link in the chat. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to show you how to make more profits and how to generate more free time on your calendar. And we do this basically through 4 steps. We call it the law firm growth acceleration model. And what did it consist of? It consists of lead generation. You have to have a way to generate leads that are reliable and consistent, because without leads, that's kind of like trying to drive a car without gasoline, right? But then the second part is actually converting those leads into clients using, with a solid intake system. Now, the problem that we see once you have the leads in the intake system is that typically the work increases, and then you end up working like 90-hour weeks. So you got to have a self-managing team that follows KPIs, that's held accountable, and actually runs everything the way that you want it run. So you have to have a team of rock stars. And then the fourth element of the law firm acceleration model is profits. You want to make sure that as your revenues increase, your expenses don't just keep up. You want to make sure that your profits are going up and your expenses are kind of going like this, so that you're actually able to take more money home. And when you do all that, you end up with a bigger profit in your pocket, and you end up with more free time on your calendar. So if you want to come to the event, it's a 3-day event. It's going to be absolutely awesome. Just click the link that we dropped in the chat, and you can grab your ticket for $1. And also, if you want the cheat sheets for today's content, if you're watching this on YouTube, or if you're watching this on Facebook or anywhere, just comment me below, or actually we might have them check the description. We might have them in the description. And everyone that's on here live on Zoom, we'll go ahead and we'll email you the cheat sheets once they're ready. So, Charlie, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. You got any closing thoughts or remarks for everybody?
No, I mean, look, people who are on here live or who are watching this after the fact, you're in the right place. You're learning the right things. You've got this combination of ideas and of technology that can be applied to make this process better for you. The only thing that you have to do now is actually do the darn thing, right? That gap between idea and implementation, when you solve that gap, that's where the money ultimately gets made.
Yeah, absolutely. That's execution is where the rubber meets the road, I think they say. So awesome. All right, guys. Well, hey, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. Thank you so much, Charlie. And
thank you.